Hey everyone, it's lukemick here. Welcome to another Sundance review. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Edgar Wright's brand new documentary feature debut, The Sparks Brothers. Now, I entered this documentary not as a Sparks fan, but as an Edgar Wright fan. That's really one of the only reasons I would have ever watched this film. I didn't know anything about the Sparks Brothers before watching this film. I didn't know the band by name. I didn't know what era of music they were creating music in. All I knew is that Edgar Wright really liked this band, and once the film got started and we got to hear some of their big hit singles, some of them were a little bit recognizable. I was like, okay, I think I've heard this tune before in some of my British pop and new wave listening, but I did not know anything about the band or the two brothers that lead this band. And essentially what this film does is it gives you a very comprehensive look into this band's and into these two brothers' entire history with music. It starts out with them at a very young age as children. They talk about their influences on their art a little bit and experiences with their father and their family. They go off to college, and from there they start to make bands, and then of course they form into the band Sparks. And then throughout the rest of the film, we're really just watching this band go through the motions of
traveling to England, going back to America after a poor album reception, making another great album that people really resonate with a decade later, moving back to England, then they don't make a very good album, they move back to America, moving back to England, back to America, moving back to England.
And I am really summing up what this film is, and if you get the impression of what I'm saying, I found this film to be very, very repetitive and really bogged down by just the amount of detail that went into explaining each and every song and album that Sparks has put out over the entirety of their career. Now, what I will say is that I think if you are a Sparks fan, you'll love this film because it's over 2 hours of
pure Sparks mania.
You get detailed looks into the making of each album and how people were reacting to each album, the feelings that the band and the two lead brothers had towards the critical reception it got. And it really is a movie that is made
by Sparks fans, for Sparks fans.
And for somebody like me, like I already said, I didn't know anything about Sparks. And this film also does work as a good introduction to Sparks, because even though I find it to be a very long, a very drawn out film that I was a little bit bored by in some parts of the middle, I still walk out of this film wanting to listen to some Sparks albums and give the band a shot, because they are like a sort of Talking Heads or Queen or Pet Shop Boys. You know, they went into a lot of different avenues of music, as we learned throughout this documentary. So I think the film did its job in that respect, and that it gained a potential new fan. You know, I never knew what this band was, and by watching this film, it gave me that introduction, and now I am listening to their music and exploring it at my own pace, and I think that's a really great thing. But the thing is, it also was a film that I just think was so much. You know, if you don't know this band, especially if you don't care about this type of music at all, you might not like this film. It's hard because it's a film that just includes a lot of interviews and a lot of people gushing about the band, talking about how underrated they are, how bad they felt when one album wasn't received very well, and how they sort of went into hiding and were quietly working on new material all the time. They're a band that has consistently had an extreme output, and they continue to make music, and it's a band that there has been a niche crowd that has been following for years. And I think people who know of Sparks, who remember them, who maybe don't know them very well, but just have memories of, oh yeah, I remember that music video, that was really weird. You might enjoy a lot of different aspects of this film and just the journey that it brings you on, but I think that the story of the band just isn't all that captivating, because the film really just gets into this very repetitive groove where you just kind of see the same things happening over and over again, and as you're working your way through the decades, it just kind of moves at a snail's pace. The film is always consistently exciting in the way that it's edited. Being an Edgar Wright film, there are some cool animated features that they have implemented into this documentary. Like, Edgar Wright's style and his signature handiwork is definitely there in this film. If this were directed by anybody else, I don't think I would have liked it as much. It's just a documentary that includes a lot of people gushing about a band that I didn't know anything about. And like I said, it's nice to know about the band now, but it was kind of a strenuous experience for me watching the entire thing. Because when it's the third film of the day, the sun's going down, it was an evening film, and you're watching one of the longest films of the festival, and it's this documentary about a band that I could care less about. It's not the most captivating, compelling film to watch. That's really all I have to say about Sparks. I think maybe like 10 years down the road, if I become some sort of big Sparks fan, I'll revisit this documentary and really love it, because it truly is a large, all-encompassing just look into the band's entire career. And it's interesting in that respect if you care about the band a lot. But for me, I don't know. It's definitely a major love letter to this band, and I think it will really resonate with fans of Sparks.
No doubt in my mind.
Well, it makes Sparks fans happy. But for my personal enjoyment and critique of the film, I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Maybe down the road, if I really enjoy the music of Sparks and I revisit this film, maybe I'll
Love the film more.
the second time around if I ever watch it again. But just on this first viewing of somebody who is an Edgar Wright fan but not a Sparks fan, that's how I felt about the film. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. And oh, probably the biggest takeaway from this film is balls.